We are live today with Mr. Huston O'Connor, very smart man, someone I recently met through my Business Networking International chapter, $1 million chapter that we have down here in San Antonio, Texas. And he's the owner of Power Up Soul, a very smart business mind, someone who's very, has a consultative approach to the way he does business. And had a meeting with him, was very impressed and was like, I got to get you on the YouTube channel. I want to talk more about solar. I also kind of like solar because it's futuristic in a way. It's kind of like the future of energy, I believe. So how are you doing today? How's it going, Houston?
Joseph, I'm doing great, man. I appreciate the opportunity to join you tonight. Looking forward to our conversation.
Me too. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. All right, let's jump right into it. So the first question, just so people can get to know you, is an icebreaker. And the question is, Houston, tell us something about you that a lot of people don't know.
Well, so I think a lot of your viewership probably wouldn't know this about me, but I'm a graduate of Trinity University. And I was also a baseball player for them. So when I was in high school, I played baseball and football. Actually graduated my senior year as the El Paso Player of the Year. So I grew up in El Paso, was the Player of the Year for baseball in 2001, and played baseball at Trinity. Loved it, loved every minute of it. You know, probably had a decent chance to go pro until I hurt myself the summer between my junior and senior year. So that would kind of be what I guess with a lot of people that don't know me, that don't know anything about it. So
that's good. Trinity is one of those. It's one of those top-notch schools that we have here in San Antonio, Texas.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's good. And then I wanted to. So I told you before the interview I play jazz. What have you learned from playing baseball that you implement still today in your business?
You know, I think a lot of it comes down to just the consistency that you need with baseball. You know, practice makes perfect, right? You don't become the player of the year by showing up on game day and just going out there and performing. It's all about what you put into it beforehand, and that's the same in business. You know, you get out of it what you put into it. And so for me, that's kind of been my mentality my whole life. Really, is, you know, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to go all in and do it the right way.
That's awesome. I like that. I think that's very good. I read a study. I think it was like in a business journal or something like that, and it said people who play sports are better at business and sales on average than people who didn't play sports when they were younger. And it's because you learn how to take a win and you learn how to take an L or a loss with grace, right? And just keep coming back. It's one of those. That's great practice for life in general, I think.
Oh yeah, and I mean, especially, you know, with something like baseball. I mean, if you get a hit 3 out of 10 times, you're in the Hall of Fame, you know.
Yeah.
And that means 7 out of 10 you're failing. And so learning to fail and fail with grace has definitely been a big thing for me.
That's awesome. I like that. Awesome. Very good. So we got baseball at Trinity. And next I wanted to get into like your journey from when you were at Trinity to how you became the owner of Power Up Soul. So like, what's your story? What's the story of how you became the owner of a successful solar company? How did that happen?
So right out of college, I took a job as an insurance adjuster. Did that for about 3.5 years and learned a lot about business and about, in particular, contract law. Moved from there and transitioned into sales. Took a job with Enterprise. Was in their rental car division for about 3 or 4 months, and then transitioned over to their car sales division. And car sales is really where I've been the better part of my career. So that was 2008. I sold cars from 2008 to 2013 when I had been the finance manager at Enterprise and transitioned out of that role and took a job as a rep for a national lender.
Yeah.
Was with that lender for 5 years and then spent another 1.5 years with another lender here in the San Antonio market prior to coming to solar. And so, you know, was in the car business altogether about 14 years. So that's really where I kind of cut my teeth, learned my sales skills, and, you know, learn business. And that's what's brought me to where I am today.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I wanted to ask you some questions about that. First, focusing on like the car business. There's two questions. You can answer any one you want to. Like, what's the
All right.
greatest lesson on sales that you learned when you were in the car business? Or what advice would you give yourself when you were first starting in that business if you wanted to be, skyrocket your success in the car business?
So I think in the car business, but really in any sales organization, the biggest thing that I've learned is the question-based selling approach.
Mhm.
And really what it comes down to is you should spend 80% of your time listening and 20% asking inquisitory questions to try and get to what your customer's true thinking and thought process is. And that's really been the one thing for me. So when I first started at Enterprise, and as we were kind of prepping for this, I know one of the questions we were talking about was some of the books that I've read, and one that always stands out to me is a book that was actually assigned to me by my manager at the time with Enterprise. He gave me a book called The Secrets of Question-Based Selling by Thomas Friess, and made me write a book report on it when I was done.
Yeah.
So it sticks in my mind for sure, but it really taught me the concept of listening instead of selling. And that's really been huge for me in terms of the way that I approach things. I don't like the hardcore close tactic. I'm much more of the provide information and let you make an informed decision. And so that's the way that I've approached business my entire career, and really what's kind of driven me the whole time.
That's cool. So like consultative approach, that asking questions and listening more than you speak.
Exactly. Asking questions, taking notes. So one of the things that was neat about Enterprise, they actually had a one-page like information sheet that as a salesperson, you were required to fill out all sections of that sheet prior to showing a vehicle or, taking a credit application, anything along those lines. You had to know who you were talking to and what their wants and needs were before you move forward. And so I've really taken that approach with everything that I've done going forward, which is, really taking that, like you said, that consultative approach to learn the needs of the person I'm speaking to and then react and meet those needs as best I can.
I like it. Yeah. So figure out what the person needs, right? And then it's like finding out a way to help them get it. And I think great business is win-win. That's what you're creating with great sales as well.
Exactly. I think the best way to quote unquote close a deal is to give the customer what they need.
It's brilliant. Yeah.
Simple, right?
Yeah, it's so simple. I love it. That's awesome. Very cool. And what drew you to the solar industry, to that industry?
Well, a couple things. Number one, so it's kind of funny. My now business partner had reached out to me about a month or two before we actually joined up and mentioned it to me. And so it was kind of in the back of my mind. And then I had some things change with my role with the lender I was working for that, to put it not so nicely, I ended up getting fired because I had a really bad herniated disc in my neck that made it virtually impossible for me to work. And rather than do the smart thing and try and apply for short-term disability or something like that, I tried to just gut it out. And before I could get myself healed and fixed, my performance had fallen off to the point that they let me go. And so it was somewhat necessity, but something that I was already kind of considering. And, it's one of those things where it's funny how sometimes God puts you in a position where you're forced to make a decision in order to show you the right decision, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I feel happened here was I was pushed out of the car industry because this was the opportunity that I was meant to be pursuing. And so that's the way I look at it, the way I feel about it. But overall, I mean, the solar market is very much in its infancy stages in Texas, nationwide, but in particular in Texas. And I think the opportunity for growth and really to create a successful business is there right now. And so it was the perfect timing.
Yeah, I believe the same thing. I think you're in a good place and a good time for solar.
Exactly.
Texas, so many people moving here, right? And then
and a lot of people who already have the kind of the solar mindset, if you will. So a lot of people come in from out of state, from California, from areas where they're used to paying much higher utility rates, and they have that green drive, if you will, and so it just makes sense.
Yep, definitely. That's awesome. And we'll talk a little bit about the financial planning of it as well, because I deal with that too with clients. Sometimes it's like, should I get solar on my house? It's one of those big financial decisions people
Yeah,
make.
for sure. I know that was a big part of our conversation the other day. We went kind of into the weeds a little bit as far as some of the ways that we can help the folks who are looking for the financial planning aspect of things.
Definitely, definitely. Awesome. So next question here, Houston, is who's the first person who pops in your mind when I ask you, who's someone who helped you on your journey and what did they teach you?
So I would really say there's two people, particularly in the solar industry, that have really helped me grow. Number one would be my business partner, C. Ray Stanziola. He's the one that brought me into the business, that introduced me to the opportunity. He was the salesperson on my home when I bought solar for my house, and really kind of helped me get into the game. And then really the one who's been my mentor and the one who's kind of helped me grow is a guy by the name of Eric Garcia. He's one of the senior leaders of power solar here in the San Antonio market. He's built a team across the state of Texas, and actually is in the process of building a team in Las Vegas as well, among other areas. So he's someone, he's been in the business for 5 or 6 years, really has a lot of experience, and has helped me grow and pushed me to truly learn the business.
I like that. That's awesome. Very cool. And here, just real quick, I wanted to just make sure that everything's good, because I've had sometimes where the audio doesn't work well. So I'm just going to make sure I record as well, just in case.
Gotcha.
I want to add that. And I was saying before, I'm a little rusty. It's been about a month since I made it. And I was like,
no worries,
okay.
man. So
yeah,
this is my first live streaming, so you're well more seasoned than I am.
Oh, really? That's cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see you doing cool stuff on social media all the time. I've seen a few things you've done.
I try to, I think in a lot of ways I would consider myself to be an introvert by nature, but 15 years in sales and just kind of having that knowledge of what it takes, it forces me to get out of my comfort zone and push to do some of those things for sure.
I like that. I like that. So I consider myself an extrovert, the opposite. But I know a lot of rock star financial planners, financial advisors are introverts. And I wanted to ask you a question in that vein. What advice would you give to someone who's introverted, who wants to get into your industry and be successful in business and sales and things like that?
So I went to a training event out in California a couple months ago with some of the top performers in our entire company. Guys that are making high 6 figures and even 7 figures selling solar. And one of the biggest takeaways that I took from them, for myself in particular, is, does everyone that you know think of you as the solar guy? So in other words, don't hide what you do.
Yeah.
Make sure that you're out there and you're letting people know, hey, this is what I do. If you need my help, I'm here for you. And you see on social media, it's all about consistency for me, but making sure that everybody knows that that's what I do. And in a lot of ways that means getting out of my comfort zone a little bit, because do I necessarily want to be posting videos on social media a couple times a week and doing all that? Probably not, but I do it because I know that's what's necessary to be successful.
Awesome. I like that. And that's there's so much to be said, so much you learn from getting outside of your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And consistency goes right back to baseball, right? It's like, if you practice, you're going to do well. If you're not practicing consistently, the game time is too late. It's too late to go.
You can take just a couple of weeks off and completely lose it,
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. So thinking about the future of the solar industry, something I'm very much interested in. I'm a huge sci-fi fan. I love the future. Where do you see the solar industry going as you look like 20, 30 years down the road or into the future?
I think it is the future. You look at what's happening in other parts of the country, and really even what's starting to happen in our parts of the country. Everything's pointing towards solar. Obviously we hear all this conversation about fossil fuels and the challenges that are there. We're in Texas, and oil and gas is a huge part of industry in the Texas market, but that, not to say that solar is going to completely take over, but I think it's going to become more and more an accepted and highly adopted part of our energy production requirement. And so you look at a part of the country, like California, for example. If you're building a home in California, by law, you have to put solar on the home.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that's required as part of a new home build in California.
Wow.
Here closer to home, Houston actually just passed an ordinance that new home builds have to include a roof design that's friendly for solar. And so they're not requiring solar yet, but they're requiring the possibility of solar in the future. And I think we're going to see more and more of that. Combine that with the fact that over the last 10 years, the cost of solar has gone down over 90%. It's now readily available at very competitive rates for the everyman, so it's not just a rich man's product anymore. Anybody can get it and show real savings with it. And so I think we're going to continue to see that going forward. Obviously, we're going to continue to see, the efficiency of the panels improve. I think the next big step is going to be the batteries, getting batteries and backup usage to a place where it's more cost friendly. So I think that's the next step of what we're going to see.
And we might have a perfect storm, because batteries are getting so much attention right now with electric cars and stuff like that. Like everyone wants to have a better battery. Phones, right? They want to have the best battery.
Exactly. I think energy storage in general, no matter what industry we're talking about, energy storage is huge.
Yeah.
And a lot of the technology that we're going to see coming down the pipeline is going to have to do with the storage aspect of the solar industry.
Awesome. So what tips, like practical advice, would you give someone? Like, say a friend came up to you and said, I'm thinking about getting solar. What's some practical advice you would give them?
Practical advice: give me your bill. Give me an opportunity to give you a quote. But realistically, I mean, there are a couple things that a lot of people typically look at and get worried about with solar. So number one is obviously the cost. A lot of people don't realize that we do offer zero out-of-pocket loans that are designed to essentially replace what you're already paying CPS. So think of it as the day that you decided to move out of an apartment and buy a house. That's the same thing that you're talking about with solar, where today you're in a never-ending rental agreement with your utility company, whether that be CPS or, if you're in another part of the city or state or country, whoever your utility is, you're renting your energy from them on a monthly basis. Whereas with solar, by adding that to your home, you're adding a physical asset, and you're adding an asset that has a finite payoff date, where the day will come where you will one day own that system. Add to that it's a fixed payment with no inflationary aspect to it. Obviously you're in the financial planning industry, what inflation's doing right now. CPS just confirmed a 3.85% rate increase, but I can pretty much guarantee that's not going to be the last one we see in the next couple of years. So we're going to see utility rates continue to rise, and with solar, there's an opportunity where you can essentially own something at today's valuation and not have to pay the premium tomorrow. Yeah.
It's really interesting because, like, you think about oil, and not to bash oil, but one thing that I think is interesting is Houston is a huge oil town or oil city. And they're saying we got to design our roofs so that they're at least can accommodate solar, which I think that's crazy. That's a great change. I'm happy about that.
Yeah, for sure.
Another thing is oil is very much, sometimes it has wild swings because of things that happen all around the world. Like things are happening in the Middle East, different countries can cause like oil prices to go haywire. And then that increases everyone's utility bill. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. So tips. All right. I want to ask you about your success journey. You asked about, we did talk about different books. But yeah, what are some of your favorite business and success books that really have left an impact on you?
I'll be honest, I don't read very much.
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of podcasts, things like that. For some reason, if I pick up a book, I'm usually out cold in about 5 minutes. So I like to listen more than read. But
well, let me rephrase. What's your favorite podcast or resource? It doesn't have to be in book form. What's your favorite resource for business and success?
So I have listened to a lot of, so I mentioned already The Secrets of Question-Based Selling. One of the other great business minds, he's got a couple books out there, but one of the guys that I really love to listen to is a guy by the name of Jocko Willink. Are you familiar with him?
Yep.
Former Navy SEAL. I mean, just a real tough guy, but a very smart guy, a very smart business mind. And someone that really likes to challenge. And that's, for me, I think that's the one thing that motivates me more than anything is getting that challenge. Like we talked about earlier, to get out of your comfort zone and push one step further and go a little bit harder. And so I really I enjoy listening to him. I do listen to a lot of political podcasts and things like that, but there's a lot of different sources that I try and bounce around and really get a little bit of a wide variety of voices and messages.
That's awesome. Yeah, Jocko Willink is definitely a favorite. I know he's a great business mind. He was selling energy drinks, and I was like, where can I get his energy drink at? His books are one of the top selling, but he has a saying, which is discipline equals freedom, I believe it is.
Yeah.
I think that it's all starting to tie together, right? That consistency, that discipline. It's really, that's what it takes. It's like, what are you doing in the day-to-day to get towards your goal, whatever that goal may be?
Exactly.
Very good. So I think we talked a little bit about sales, but yeah, I guess, let me see if I'll phrase it a different way. Let me know if you want to skip it. If someone were to come to you and they're saying, I'm just struggling so much with my sales skills, what advice would you give them?
My dog kind of grumbled on that one, but so I think the best advice that I could give, kind of going back to the conversation we had earlier, would be learn to become a better listener. Mm-hmm. Learn to ask questions and then listen. And that's really what's going to make you successful in sales. If you go out there and just try and sell and talk through someone, you're not going to get very far. Whereas if you can become a better listener and really learn to identify what your customer needs, that's how you're going to be successful.
Yeah, I like that. Sort of the way of you looking at interactions of like, what does this person need? What do they want? Type of thing. Yep. Instead of what do I want? Which is, it's so out of the ordinary. It's very rare to see that, unfortunately.
I think it kind of ties a lot back into one of the principles that we talk about every week on BNI, which is givers gain.
Yeah.
If I can, as a salesperson, if I can become a giver to my customer and give them value, then I become a better salesperson and someone who's actually meeting the need that they've brought to the table. And so that's kind of the approach that I take to it.
Givers gain. Definitely a believer in that. It works. It's crazy how just, it's not even like, it's not transactional. It's like the more you give, just the more you get. And it becomes so unpredictable. You're like, I don't know. It's cool.
Yeah.
I like it. So you mentioned when we were having our meeting that you love golf. You like to play golf. I wanted to talk just a little bit about, how does golf help your business life? I'm more of a tennis guy myself. I like tennis and running alone. So I'm an introvert when it comes to working out for sure.
Yeah.
And but what has the game of golf taught you about life, about business? How has it impacted that?
So first of all, I'll tell you, I do love the game of golf. I'm not a very good golfer. I think I still have way too much baseball swing in my golf swing. So I struggle a little bit with consistency, but I think that goes back to, kind of the humbling aspect of the game. You look at it and it's a very tough sport. Like for someone who may not play it very often, they would look at it and go, oh, well, I just got to take this stick and whack a ball. It's easy, right? But it's not at all easy. And it's very, very easy to get discouraged, very easy to get frustrated. One of the things I've dealt with my entire life and in in particular, in my younger years, I was very tough on myself. You know, I was the kid that was getting thrown out of Little League games at 8 years old because I was throwing a bat after I struck out. Like, I was that kid. And so both with baseball, with sports in general, but then with the game of golf, you know, you can't go out there and crack a club over your leg every time you hit a bad shot. And so just that patience, that just leveling mindset to where you can take a step back, take a deep breath, and say, okay, it's all going to be okay. Let's go make the next shot. You know, let's go. If I lose out on a sale, instead of getting frustrated with myself, I can just take a step back and say, okay, where did that deal go wrong? What, you know, did I not provide the right value? And so it's really kind of helped me understand the concept of taking a step back, looking at things from 3,000 feet above, assessing and making corrections.
That's huge. I mean, that's like all aspects of life. You can speed up success so much if don't dwell on past failures, but you just learn from them and then move on. But it's so easy to say, so hard to do. And I think I'm an advocate for sports for sure. I think it helps a lot. I wish I had kept going. I quit when I was.
I'll be honest, I'm not perfect. There's the occasional throw of the club or something. So it still happens sometimes, but I try not to as much as possible, because, you know, the game of golf is very much about etiquette as well. And so you got to kind of control your emotions and control yourself, even if you're having a bad day. So that's kind of the approach.
I like it. Very cool. And so next I want to get more towards like things you've learned along the way. And my question here is, in your journey to where you are today, what is something that seemed like a bad thing that happened that actually ended up being a good thing in the long term?
Well, the one I was planning to use on this is something we've already kind of touched on briefly, which is getting fired. You know, that was the first time in my life I've ever been let go of a job. I've always been successful in everything that I've done. And so, you know, that was something that at the time was hard to take. You know, I completely understood it because I knew what was going on, but you know, at the time it was tough. And then the transition almost immediately into this solar role, and very quickly realizing, hey, you know what? As tough as that was, you know, I look back on it and I always kind of say that there are times in life where God puts you in a tough situation in order to change you and in order to push you in the direction he wants you to go. And that's the way that I look at it. As you know, I went through this whole thing early last year, ended up having surgery in June, but and finally got myself fixed. But I think I was put through that whole thing in order to deliver me to where I'm at today. Still really kind of at the infancy stages of building a business and trying to grow it and starting to see the successes of it. And so, you know, 2022 is going to be a big year, and I think we're going to continue to see things build and grow from there.
For sure. Awesome. Very good. And then what is something you've learned? So not everyone has a business. A lot of people want to start a business. I'm sure a lot of people watching my channel is all about self-improvement. So at least had the thought, I want to start a business. I want to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
What have you learned through that process that you think would benefit other people who are thinking about becoming a business owner or entrepreneur?
Well, I can tell you that the last 9 months have been an absolute drinking through the fire hose. My entire career I've spent as a W-2 employee working for someone else. And so this is the first time that I've kind of been out on my own. I think the biggest thing that I would recommend, which is something I didn't do and learned a lot of times in the hard way, don't go out and immediately start spending money on advertising and thinking you're going to get results. If I were to have things to do over again, I think the first thing that I would do would be to join a networking group like BNI.
Wow.
Because that's something we've completely shut off the spigot for all external spending of advertising. And we've gone 100% to a network-based marketing approach and really leveraging our friends, our relationships, and the people that we know to build our business organically. You know, my partner and I, we spent a lot of money on Facebook, on YouTube, on all these different sources that to us, it was a lot of money, but to our competition, it's chump change.
Yeah.
And so you just, as a new business coming in, you really can't compete at the level you need to compete to drive enough business to work.
Yeah.
I guess what it boils down to is leverage your existing market and find a way to grow your networking ability, whether it be through chambers of commerce, whether it be through BNI, another networking organization,
Mm-hmm.
some way that you can leverage people who are already successful in business, who can help you learn the right way to grow your business, the right way to advertise, the right way to market, and learn from those mistakes.
That's awesome. I think that's something that can help a lot of people who are thinking about entering that business ownership journey.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
I think what popped in my mind while you were saying that is you can't bypass the relationship aspect of it. It can't be straight to the computer. The computer stuff is cool. I love when I see like, oh, I made an online sell on something. It's really cool. But it's all about who you, it's not about who you know in terms of like, but it's about having people in your network who know you're the solar guy, you're the finance guy. I found that fast tracks everything. So I definitely agree with you on that.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So next question here is, what is something you learned on one of your first jobs, or what was your first job, and that still impacts how you do business today?
So my first job out of college, I was an insurance adjuster. So I did commercial property and general liability claims. I was an in-office adjuster, so I was sitting in a cubicle with a little headset and a computer and making phone calls all day. I think one of the biggest things that I've learned from that I continue to use to this day is really a better understanding of contracts and some of the legal and technical aspects of business. Within my company, I mentioned earlier, I've got a business partner, and he's much more the extroverted. Like, we can't go anywhere without him knowing somebody. And so early on, we kind of had the agreement that he would be the one out there generating the business and doing most of the networking, and I would handle a lot of the technical stuff that's more in office. The accounting, the proposal generation for a solar proposal, that type of stuff. And so for me, it's really the technical side of things, and learning and understanding the right way to do things, and following a process. And I am very much process oriented. I want to follow the same process with each of our transactions. Every proposal that we do, we follow the exact same process and steps. And so the more times you practice it, the better you get at it.
Yeah, that's how you attain mastery, right? You just keep doing it.
Yep.
I like it. So I was going to ask if you could go back to when you started your business, but I feel like we talked about that. So I'm going to ask if you could go back in time to when you started at your first job. You were just entering the career stage of your life. What advice would you give yourself?
Where I'm at today and looking back, I think number one thing I'd say was get into it 2 or 3 years ago, because I think that at that point the market was really very undeveloped, and had I been able to get into solar 3 or 4 years ago, I really could have been one of the leaders in the market. I think I'm still in a place where we can quickly become a leader, because there is still plenty of opportunity. But hindsight's always 20/20, right? 3 or 4 years ago would have been the perfect time to do something like this. So get into it sooner, right? I think we can all make that call in one way or another.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced that, where it's like, I wish I had just done it and stopped thinking about it and just do it.
Yep. Take the chance and go with it.
Yeah. And you learn so much quicker that way too, right? Because there's no better feedback system for results than actually going out there and trying something, doing it yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the earlier in life you do it, the less worry and responsibility you have. I'm now at a point where I've got 2 kids and a family, and they come first. And so, it's a lot of responsibility to make sure that I am building a successful business. Whereas, if you're younger, if you're in your earlier mid-20s, you're at a point where the sky's the limit. And, becoming an entrepreneur at that age
Yeah.
really gives you a huge ceiling for success in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially like, I definitely agree with that. And you hear a lot of stories about things that would not fly if you were married, like people sleeping under their desks at pool.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Awesome. So I wanted to jump off that question here, play a little jazz. It wasn't on the question list, but what's something that surprised you about owning a business? What's something that just you didn't see coming, couldn't see coming, or what surprised you?
I think in particular with this business, the one thing that surprised me was the time frame for actually getting paid. The solar business is interesting in the fact that we basically get paid 2 times over the course of the deal. We get a small portion of the commission up front within about a week or two of signing the contract, but then the rest of it doesn't come until the system actually gets installed. And with permitting and a lot of the other stuff that you don't really think about, there's some time involved in that in most parts of the country. I mean, there are parts of the country where it's very quick, but in particular in San Antonio, it's about a 3-month turnaround for an install. And so that was one thing that surprised us a little bit. For me, I think it's just truly how much work goes into the backside of the business. Like you think of it as just going out there and generating leads and selling deals, but then you don't think about all of the extra accounting and paperwork and all the other stuff that goes into it. And so just having a good understanding of that going into it, is always, it definitely is helpful.
That makes sense. Yeah, knowing what you're getting into, and it's sort of like nothing's ever as easy as it looks, right? There's always something going on behind the scenes.
Exactly. Well, like I said, we spent a whole lot of money to do advertising, thinking like, oh, we're gonna put some Facebook ads out and we'll get some leads tomorrow and close them and we'll be good to go. And 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks later, we're looking going, why isn't this working? And so some of that, and just knowing, hey, it's trial and error, and once you find what works, stick with it. But until then, be willing to make adjustments.
Yeah, make those changes. Yeah, I like that. That's awesome. Okay, so now I have a question here, which was on the script, and it's, Huston, what's something that you know that you think a lot of other people in the world do not know?
Oh man, that was one of the ones that I was like, man, I don't even know.
Answer the question, right?
So let's see. I know what I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. I wish that was that easy, but oh gosh, I don't even know, honestly. There's all kinds of, my wife always says that I know all these dumb facts that, like, why would you need to know that? But now that I'm thinking about it, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. So
okay.
We could I don't know.
Yeah, just interrupt me. Just interrupt me if it pops in your mind, if you think of anything.
Gotcha.
And we can move on to the next question here. So, talking about solar, talking about your journey. This is a question I like to ask people as we get towards the final questions, which, Huston, what's a pivotal moment in your life that has shaped how you see the world today?
There's really been a couple, but the biggest ones have been the birth of my daughters, and really just kind of changing your mindset from a me or we perspective. I think up until that point, it was really very much, myself, or even myself and my wife, but I wasn't really responsible for someone else.
Yeah.
And with the birth of my girls, that really changes your perspective and really makes you think about things in a very different way. Whether that be business, whether that be just life in general, it puts a new perspective on things in a lot of different ways.
Could you, if you don't mind expounding, could you share like how it's changed the way you think, or like you said, it made you look at things in a different way? Like how did it do that? Or what's an example of that in your business or life or in general?
I think from a risk standpoint,
Mhm.
obviously we touched on this a little bit earlier, but from a risk standpoint, you know, if I was 25 years old and didn't have any kids, wasn't married, I would be in a position to take a lot more risk. Whereas today, I've got a family to feed. I've got people that rely on me. We've got mortgages, we've got stuff like that. And so
Yeah.
I think it's definitely made me look at risk in a totally different way, and not necessarily avoiding risk, but just being smarter about the risks that I do take.
It's great. Yeah.
And being more calculated with my movements.
Sounds good. Yeah. More strategic and then more
Yeah,
smart about risk.
exactly.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. So speaking about, family stuff like that, what do you want your legacy to be, Huston, when you think about any aspect of life, either life or business?
I think the biggest thing is, as a parent, the biggest thing that I could see would be to raise two successful girls who grow up and have their own families, build their own lives, and end up being more successful than I was. That's really kind of what I see as the key to success is if you're able to leave a legacy that lasts even after you're gone. And that's what I want to see. I want to raise a couple girls that are smart, that are independent, that end up going on to live great lives and do great things with their lives. And so that's what I want to see more than anything.
I love that. That's awesome. I think about that sometimes, and I like well, I tell people, like, people always tell me when it comes to their finances, they'll say, my kids don't listen to any advice I give them about finance. And I always tell them, like, they're not going to listen, but they're going to be watching what you're doing and copying it years down the road. So I think the ultimate testament of like being a good person is like how you raise your kids and the fruits of that, which take a lot of time, right? But you're talking about patience and things like that. It takes a long time, but that's
exactly. Cool. Yeah,
that's
for
awesome.
Sure.
I'm going to try to rephrase this question. Let's see if we can get it just one more time. So it's like,
all right,
what's something that that's unique to your experience that you believe there's a low chance a lot of other people have found out or know about life or business or anything? What's something that you would want to share that, of course, maybe someone knows it, but there's a low chance that a lot of people know it, or it's common knowledge, or maybe it's even common to our society nowadays?
I think if we're talking from a societal standpoint, I think the biggest thing that I've learned is that you can't do it by yourself. Mm-hmm. I think that we're living in a time where it's very much a me world, and you really cannot be successful on your own. You need help, whether that be from a mentor, whether it be from a family member, from a networking chapter, but you need help of some sort. And trying to go at it alone in today's world just does not work. And like I mentioned before, I'm very much an introvert by nature, and so I want to be able to do it by myself. Like, in my mind, I'm saying, no, I can do it. But the reality is, I need help. You need help. We all need help of some sort. And being able to identify those areas in your life and then act upon getting the help you need is really key to growing and building and being successful.
That's awesome. I like that. And
did I do good enough on that one?
You did. I like it. Yeah, it's so true. It's something very much, we live in an individualistic society, right?
It's very much the selfie generation, and even in the selfie generation, you can go take all the pictures in the world of yourself, but if nobody's looking at them on social media, what does that matter?
Yeah.
And so it in all aspects of life, it takes others in order to do anything.
Okay. Awesome. And so, question here, jumping off of that, is what do you look for in a business partner, or what should people look for in a potential business partner, or someone they're going to do business with?
So for me, my partner today is actually someone that I've known for a long time. That I think if you met us, you would realize we're very much polar opposites, and in about 90% of ways. And ultimately, what that's done is it's given us a very well-rounded business, in the sense that he pushes me in a lot of ways. I push him in a lot of ways, and we ultimately both end up moving forward because of it. So I think, especially in sales and in this industry, finding someone who can complement you in some of the ways that maybe you're not
Yeah.
the best at is really the best partnership you can have.
Yeah. I like that. Very cool. Very cool.
But at the same time, someone you can get along with, because we get along very well, even though we are very different. So, someone you can have those tough conversations with and have that understanding, but push each other at the same time.
For sure. That's key. That's so important. I like that the way you put that. It's like this idea of someone who compliments you, someone who has, like you're introverted, they're more extroverted. So you can, it's like, I don't know, it's just so cool. I like it.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the secret to a good team. Was any of that influenced by sports? Or I'm just assuming?
A lot of it. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I think a lot of it definitely comes back to sports. I mean, in fact, it's funny that you say that, because he and I met playing softball against each other. So right after I graduated from college, I started playing in a softball league. Funny thing is, one of the guys on my team is now my brother-in-law, because I married his sister, and my business partner was one of my opponents. And so a lot of it ties back to sports, and in a lot of my life in a lot of different ways ties back to sports.
That's awesome. I like that. Very cool. And final question here. So if you could leave the audience, people watching this maybe in the future, one final message, what would that message be?
I've said it a couple times, but I'll say it again. And that's, get out of your comfort zone. I read a quote the other day that said that a comfort zone is a great place to be, but it's not a place where anything grows. Mm-hmm. And that's really something that kind of stuck with me, is that if you're going to stay in your comfort zone, don't expect to grow, and so if you want to grow, you got to get out of your comfort zone, do something that's maybe you're uncomfortable doing or that you don't want to do per se, but at the end, you're going to look back and realize that was the right decision.
I love it. I love it. So true. If you want to grow, you have to be okay with some level of discomfort and trying new things and stuff like that. I like it.
Yeah. And that's true. So, whether you're, going to the gym, starting a business, anything, you're going to have moments of discomfort, but with discomfort comes growth.
Yeah. Very good. And I want to give you a quick endorsement. So I just like the way you do business, very professional, very much, someone who's not pushy, just like will tell you straight, solar makes sense, it doesn't make sense. And I've seen before with some clients, of course, it doesn't make sense in all situations, where solar can save you a lot of money on your bill. And who you choose to do business with a huge purchase like that is important. So I wanted to give my endorsement to Power Up Soul for sure, for anyone watching this. And,
appreciate that.
Business here in San Antonio, Texas, and anything you want to endorse, anything you want to say in addition to that?
I think I would say the exact same thing about you and your business. Joseph and I are still getting to know each other in a lot of ways, but I can already tell that he's a true professional. He knows some very innovative ways to help you and help your money. He and I have talked a little bit about the cryptocurrency market and some of that stuff. I'll be honest, it's still a little bit over my head, but he's going to help me get there. And so if you're looking for a way to grow your wealth and really take that to the next level, Joseph is definitely one that you want to work with.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Huston. And yeah, any social media, how can people find you if they want to find you on social media or anything like that, or your business?
So we're on all the different social media platforms. We're on Facebook, Power Up Soul, Instagram, also Power Up Soul. We do have a YouTube channel. I haven't done a great job of keeping up with that, but there are some videos on there. We're on pretty much all of the platforms. Just search for Power Up Soul and you'll find us there.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time today. I very much enjoyed our conversation, learning a lot, taking some notes when I could. I've been doing the standing up thing, so it makes it harder to take notes than when I'm sitting down. But very much enjoyed it. And thank you for everyone for watching today. Me here with shining a light on solar with Huston O'Connor. And be sure to like and subscribe. You can do that down below. You can hit the like button if you think more people might learn skills related to sales by watching this video. and subscribe if you want more content like this on how you can improve in all aspects of your life. Thanks again for watching. Thank you, Huston, for your time. Very much enjoyable.
Thank you, Joseph, and thank you everyone for watching.
Awesome. And logging off here. Let's see. 1 second. I always have trouble with this. There we go. Awesome. All right.